So hello and welcome. We are going to talk about Dynamics 365 marketing and Forms Pro, not Forms Pro, customer voice today. So a bit more about me. Oh, sorry, I forgot to say yes. So questions, in terms of questions, I like my sessions to be interactive. So absolutely okay with questions. I think it makes more sense if you don't, if there is something you want to say or ask, definitely stop me. We'll pause. I much rather go through all of the questions rather than just show you loads of slides that I think are useful. I think you'll find it much more useful if we go over the things that you guys want to know. So questions, absolutely fine. Don't worry, stop me and we'll see how we can help. Okay, and having said that, a bit more about me. Some of you know me already. For those of you who don't, my name is Dilyana Radulova. People don't call me that. Most people call me Didi, nice and simple. So whichever one you guys prefer, both work. In terms of what I do, I am a customer engagement consultant with Incremental Group. I've been in the CRM world for the past 7 years or so, dealing with different CRM systems, Microsoft, and different built in-house CRM systems. For the past 1 year, I've been specializing, year and a half already. The time absolutely flies. I still feel like I'm living in March 2020 before that lockdown happened. But for the past year and a half or so, I've been specializing mostly in Dynamics 365 marketing and the different products that it talks to, like Forms Pro, Customer Voice now. We'll talk about the name change a bit later, Customer Insights, and all of the different touch points with marketing from the Microsoft stack. When I am not customizing marketing for a customer, I try to get very involved with the community. I love talking at events. I love presenting. As you might know, if you are following me on social media, I'm actually on holiday this week. So I'm literally doing that session 20 meters from the beach. So I don't have the comfort of two screens. I don't think we'll have any technical hiccups, but if we do, apologize, I think, but we'll sort them out as they come. And when I'm not doing that, I love to take part in Taekwondo competitions. So that's something I absolutely love doing in my free time. And that's probably enough about me. Incremental Group, as I said, I work for Incremental Group. We are a Microsoft Gold partner for a number of different things, and we are in the inner circle, and we have been for the past 2 years. What that means, it means that puts us in the top 1% of partners, and we received our inner circle for this year, so 2020 and 21, just a few days ago. So that was something really exciting. And with this, I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk to you, because now you know much more about me than I know about you. So it's absolutely fine to come off mute. You don't have to use the chat. We can have a conversation. I just wanted to get a feel of how much you guys know about the or of marketing or for Pro or Customer Voice. Do we have somebody who has used it before in the audience? Do we have somebody who has built it for a customer? And there is no right and wrong answer. So if you never used it, that's absolutely fine as well. I just want to get a feel of how much detail you in the session.
You're getting a few yeses in the chat. Someone else is saying we're using both at the pensions. You can see the chat.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
I think there might be some beginners on the call as well.
I don't think you count as a beginner anymore, Cheryl. I think now you're an expert. Bernard is saying never used it. Good, yeah. And I think it's quite good. That's what we normally get in those sessions. We normally get a big range of people who have used it for the past year and a have, are super experienced with it, and there are always people who have never seen it before. So we'll try. So am I saying we recently launched Dynamics 365 at our company? Exciting. And I'm sure you have loads to tell me as we go through. Mark is saying not used Forms Pro before, investigating Dynamics marketing at the moment. Excellent, Mark. So if you have any questions as we go through, definitely ask. If there is something that you want to know more about, you can ask me here, or you can take it offline afterwards. Okay, good. So I think that gives me an idea, because again, it's really good to see that we have a different range of capabilities in the audience. It's always very exciting to see people with different stages of their journey. So let's try to work with that. So in terms of the name change, who doesn't love a good name change, especially when they have to change all of their slides to fit the new product name as well. So a question, you probably know it already, but for those of you who don't, Microsoft announced that Forms Pro, it was last week, or yeah, I think it was last week, announced that Forms Pro is now customer voice. We got asked from quite a few customers if that's just a name change or if it's a new product. And I think it's a bit of both. And I want to take a minute to talk through the transition path, because especially for the guys who are already using Forms Pro, that might be useful. So it's definitely a name change, because it is going to be called Customer Voice going forward. Essentially, it is a new product as well, because it is going to be quite different to the way Forms Pro is at the moment. It's going to have more capabilities, especially going forward, probably not in the first instance when it gets released. In terms of the transition path, we know a bit, we don't know too much, but I can share at least the things that we know. So for what we know today is for the customers who are already using Forms Pro, so nothing changes for you guys this month, nothing changes in July. In the beginning of August, Microsoft has a transition path. So what will happen is they will start transitioning you from Forms Pro to Customer Voice. They will transition all of your data and all of the different building blocks. So they'll move your surveys across, and they'll move your survey data, so responses, invitations, and all of those good things to Customer Voice. So this is anticipated to happen, as I was saying, starting beginning of August up until mid-August, for what we know. And then the next thing that will happen is mid-August or probably end of August. I think we are going to get the preview of Customer Voice, which is going to be exciting, because that will be the first time when we'll get to see and play with Customer Voice hands-on. So just a piece of recommendation: if you are somebody who is already using Forms Pro, nothing to worry about, because there is a transition path for you. If you're somebody who is thinking of using it, if it's urgent, definitely by all means use it. But if you have some time and there is no time pressure, probably what would make your life a bit easier is if you hold off for now and you just start using Customer Voice in the mid-August when that gets launched, because then you don't have to go through the transition path. So that is what we are. I have given you the link to the article to read a bit more if you want to. I think we're going to share the slides after that, so you're going to have that. If not, just drop me a message and I can definitely send you it as well. And I think now I have overwhelmed you with a lot of information around Customer Voice. So do you guys have any questions or anything you want to ask me about Customer Voice? So, and I don't promise to be able to answer them all, but we'll definitely have a look. So we are saying, yeah, we expect name changes regularly from Microsoft. Yeah, that's right. I think the one that is important for me is I like my hashtags. So I just want us to agree or come up with a hashtag that we'll be using with customer voice going forward, just so that we can be nice and consistent. We have a question. How do you start this? Where do you start from? So do you mean Forms Pro? Bernard? Yes. So I think it will depend. Are you already using? So I'll go through the options. If you're already using Dynamics 365 for sales or customer service, if you have the enterprise edition, Forms Pro is included as part of your license. I think you get 2,000 responses as part of your license already. So all you need to do is, and I'll paste the link afterwards, you need to go to the Forms Pro portal and you can start creating your surveys there. If you are not using, I don't know, are you using any other Microsoft product at the moment?
Customer service.
Customer service, good, cool.
That's
so we don't need to go, good. So yeah, so all you need to do, it's already, if you have an enterprise license, it's already included. So the first thing I'm going to show you in the presentation is that Forms Pro portal. So I'll just show you the URL and you can just go and start creating your surveys today, even if you wanted to. And Bruna is saying we still have the voice of the customer solution installed when you set up trial environment. Will it change? Customer voice is deprecated, so we don't want to be using that. And yeah, so that's just the recommendation. We don't want to be using voice of the customer. In terms of will it change, do you mean if it will stop giving you the option to install it?
Yes, because when you set up a trial environment, they install the solutions and you have, for example, mobile driving apps available, and it's caused a lot of confusion for the customers. So it'd be good if it won't be installed anymore.
But you can control that with security roles, and I think that's probably definitely best practice. You definitely don't want your customers to see things that are not relevant to them, so you can control that and not show that to customers, which I definitely think is good practice, because we don't want to be using voice of the customers at all going forward.
Yeah, just control those that are sysadmin, but yeah, it's good just to make sure because it's deprecated already, but it's still being installed. So, but it's okay. Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's to help with any transition path. But yeah, I've not heard anything official, but I would expect it to not be showing up, especially with the deprecation and the more time goes by. Okay, so I think having said that, probably we can carry on. So I would just want to give you, so what I wanted to do here is I wanted to put together a slide for the guys who haven't seen Dynamics Marketing before. I'm going to show you it in a minute in a demo, but that's just a slide to summarize all of the different features and capabilities Dynamics Marketing has, because 1 hour is really not enough to show you everything that Dynamics Marketing can do. So I just wanted you to have the exposure that it can do all of those things that you would expect marketing automation software to be able to do. You can do A/B testing, you can create segments, you can create customer journeys, campaigns, marketing lists, and so all of those standard things. And you also have my favorite part of the product, which are the artificial intelligence features that you can see at the bottom. So you can do simple but really cool and useful things like calculating your spam score for an email, which really helps with making sure that all of your emails are going to be sent to the inbox of the customer you're targeting and not to their spam folder where they're not going to have a look at all. And smart scheduling is another one that, even when we are looking at Forms Pro now, I would definitely take a minute or two to show you in the demo, because I think it's a really cool, useful feature. So with this in mind, if there is any part of that product that you want us to talk about, definitely ask me in the questions afterwards, and I can show you it in a bit more detail. But I think the easiest way in terms of Forms Pro and the integration between Forms Pro and Dynamics 365 Marketing, I think the easiest way to show you guys and to explain why something is good is to show you what problem it solves. So that's why I want you to have visibility of the whole timeline and how things develop, just so that you can appreciate why we think it's so powerful. Now we have it. So first of all, Dynamics Marketing got launched a few years back, and then the recommended product, Microsoft product to run surveys with or to collect feedback was Voice of the Customer. Then Voice of the Customers got deprecated, and that left us in a position where anonymous surveys were the only surveys we could be running in a supported way. We didn't have a supported, easy way to run non-anonymous surveys. And it was still fine to do. There were things we could do with them to make them to link questions and the feedback to the customer, but it was just a bit more difficult. And what that integration has given us now is a really easy way that I'll show you how to set up in a minute of how to collect that feedback, run it as part of your customer journey, which is the campaign, get the responses back and see that reflected on your customer timeline without you having to physically do much except for set up the integration. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's have a look if we have any questions. So we have, oh yeah, okay, cool. So we don't have any questions at the moment. In terms of Forms Pro, so that was just a slide I put together in case there was somebody in the audience who didn't know what Forms Pro was. So Forms Pro is a product from the Microsoft stack. It's a feedback management solution, provides survey capabilities, and it's built on top of Microsoft Forms. So if you're familiar with Forms, Forms Pro will be very intuitive and easy for you to pick up because it is pretty similar. It's still the same drag and drop interface. And in terms of this, I think I have given you enough theory and enough slides. I think we can move to the fun stuff and do a bit of demo. As I was saying earlier, I like a bit of a theme behind them. The theme today is cocktails. I hope Samuel has got his espresso martini already. So the demo that we'll show you today is to do with Chuck. So Chuck is just a normal customer who has come to my DD cocktail party that my cocktail bar ran a few days ago. What we want to do is, as the cocktail bar owner, I want to know how we did. I want to know how our party was. I want to get that feedback. I want to analyze it, and I want to see how that can help me to run my next campaign or to launch a new product. Or, yeah, I can use the feedback depending on what I get. I can use it in whatever way I see fit. So this is the theme of the demo I want to show you today. Does that make sense? Yes, we have a smiley face. Good. So does that mean we have no questions so far? Cool. So with this, I want to jump in the system. Hopefully you guys can still see my screen. So we were get the question of how do we start using no questions yet. Good. So if we want to start using Forms Pro, all you need to do is come to that URL, and then you will see the same screen as I am, and you will be able to start creating your Forms Pro surveys. I also have a blog how to do that step by step. So I'm going to, that's one of the last slides. So you can follow that as well if that helps a bit more. Yeah, so in terms of Forms Pro, that is the first building block that we need for the scenario that I was saying we're going to run through. So if I want to get feedback for my cocktail party, the first thing I need a survey. Then I need an email, which I'll be sending to Chuck and all of the other nice people who came to my party. Then I need a customer journey or a campaign or some sort of automation that will allow me to send that email to all of my customers like Chuck. And then I need a way to see the results as they start coming in. So I'm going to show you all of those different building blocks, and I'm going to talk you through as we're going through some of the learning points that I had as I was setting it up, so that you guys can set it up super easy yourself. Okay, so having said that, the first thing we said we need a survey. Surveys are super easy to create. You can see I have my 2 surveys here, and I can show you how it looks like. Oh, so if I click on this one, I don't want to show you the results yet, because I'll show you the results later. So this is my survey. As you can see, really easy to create branded surveys. If I wanted to, this could be the logo of my company. You can add pictures, you can add smiley faces, you can add your branded picture as a background as well, and you can have your branded colors. You can have different question types, and I have given you a flavor. I have added a few dummy questions to give you an idea of the different question types that you could be using. You can have your radio buttons, you can have a multi-select, you can add pictures to your questions as well. You can style them so they could show as a tiny picture in the corner, or they can span across the whole question. You can have a drop down is a question type as well. You can do those. You can have the ranking questions where you need to put them in a specific order. You can have the cool smiley faces. I didn't even know that. Before you were able to just do stars and numbers, but now you can have smiley faces as well, which is pretty cool. You can have the net promoter score questions, and you can obviously do date questions. If I want to add a new one, super duper easy. All I need to do is click the plus, add my question, and then it shows up in my survey. So Forms Pro, one of the very good things about it is that even if you wanted to, it's really difficult to get it wrong because it's so easy to use. So now I can preview it, and I can even see how my survey looks like. There we go. So it has all the questions I just showed you. I can see how it would look like on a mobile. Forms Pro is fully mobile friendly as well. Different devices, different browsers are supported. And with this, I think this wraps up what we need to do in the Forms Pro portal, because the surveys we always need to create from within the Forms Pro survey. Does that make sense? I just want to make sure that it makes sense before I jump and show you the next bit in the marketing app itself. So Deborah is saying Forms Pro is so much easier and quicker to use than Voice of the Customer was. 100%. Yeah, Voice of the Customer is really easy. And for what we know, the new customer voice will be just as easy. So because I think it's still going to be the same drag and drop, easy to use, intuitive interface. Mark is saying, can you make questions conditional based on earlier questions? Yeah, you can have branching, you can have question logic, you can also have some validation as well. I don't know if I have a text question, but if I add a text question as well, what I can do is I can obviously make it required, but I can also have some restrictions and add some validation as well. That's quite new. Given the product with the last release, you can do your own validation, or you can have branching rules, and you can have different logic. You can build different logic depending on what people say. So for example, if they say they like martinis, you can, I don't know, end the survey, or you can send them to a different subset of questions that are relevant to what they have said. Can you send to a group of customers? Yes, and that's a good question, because that brings us nicely to the next part I was going to show you. So now we have we have a cocktail picture in the chat. Yeah, that's a bit later, Mark. That's just after the session, not just now. So with this, now we have our survey created in Forms Pro. So now let's see how we can send it to a group of people and how we can distribute it. So because remember, Chuck went to our party a few days ago. Now we know we have given him some time to sober up. So now we want to see, what he remembers and what he thought of the party. What you see here is the marketing app. Some of you might be familiar with it. It's absolutely fine if you haven't. Hopefully what you will notice, even if you have never seen it before, is that it has exactly the same or very similar look and feel to all of the other out-of-the-box apps. So it's very similar to sales, customer service. You still have the sitemap on the left, because it's using the new interface, which makes it future-proof, and you have your navigation at the top. So that's how the marketing app looks like in terms of integration between this and Forms Pro. The very first thing you need to do before you start using it is you need to enable the integration. And to do that, super duper easy. All you need to do is you need to click on the settings here, which gives you all of the different pages you have within the app. You need to click on settings. You need to come to the very bottom and of the list, and you need to click feature switches because you need to enable the integration here. We normally get a few questions or queries saying that Forms Pro doesn't work, the integration doesn't work. It does work, but it is not enabled by default when you get a trial environment or when you set up your real marketing environment. So you need to come here and physically enable it. But it's just super easy. All you need to do is enable that, save the changes, and that is you done. The next part of that journey or the campaign is we said we need a marketing email. So I'm going to show you an example marketing email that I have made very quickly for you. It could look like this, or it could look like in any way that you guys think it's best or fit, because they're so easy to make. It's still drag and drop interface, and you can configure your logo, branded colors, smiley faces, anything that you want in your email. The important thing here is the button. So clicking that button, and this is an email that we have sent to Chuck. I'll show you how we have sent it in a minute, but that's an email we have sent, and it has that click here because that button will take him to the survey that I showed you in a minute, which will allow him to give us the feedback that we are looking for. And now I want to show you how to make that email. We're not going to go into too much detail because you can play with it for quite a while. There's so many different layout features and different things you can do in the email designer. It has come quite a long way. But yeah, this is a draft email that we have made. It's a slightly different version to the one that I showed you earlier, but I think it's fine because the important bit, so yeah, I have my customizations in my email, I have my pictures, I have my logo, I have everything that I want to have. The important part in terms of the integration with Forms Pro that I want to show you is this tile here. Enabling the switch that I just showed you means that you get to see that tile in your marketing email designer. So if you want to have a link to your Forms Pro survey that you just made in your portal, all you need to do, I have added it here, all you need to do is to drag and drop it onto the email. And then once you have done that, then you get a link, you get a lookup, which looks up to all of the surveys that you have in your Forms Pro portal. So there is no further integration you need to do. They all just work nicely together. So having done that, it means that now you have your survey, you have your email, which has a button that links to your survey. So the next part that we'll look at is we need to see how we distribute that email to the group of people we are interested in. So before we do that, are there any questions or anything that didn't make sense so far? And I'm aware we're rushing a bit. I just don't want to run over time. So hopefully you guys are still keeping up. Cool. I don't see any questions. So maybe you guys are saving them all for the end. So, okay. In terms of next steps, the next thing that we want to do is we want to build our campaign, or in terms of marketing, in terms of Dynamics 365 marketing, this is what we call a customer journey. A customer journey is, as you can see, a visual way to represent our campaign, and it has different tiles, as we can see, and each tile represents a touch point you want to have with your customers. And so this is my live one. Customer journeys or campaigns can have two different states. A live one means it's processing customers as we're going through. So this one, we can see it's a live one. And in a minute, I'm going to show you a draft one, because that's where I can show you all of the different building block components. Once you have made it live, you can't change it anymore. But if we have a look at this one, my live one, it always starts with a segment. So a segment, if we have any marketing people, on the code, they'll know very well what a segment is. It's a group of people that satisfy some criteria. In this specific case, our target customer group is all of the people who went to that event that we ran not long ago. And I always like to include something around event management. In my sessions, there is no time to show you how the event functionality in Dynamics Marketing works today, but I just wanted to drop that here to give you the exposure that Dynamics Marketing has a very strong capability around event management. So if you want to know more, definitely get in touch, drop me a message, and we'll see what we can do, because there's some really cool things going on there. So, but we have run our event, and we have made our segment, which contains all of the people who came to our party. We can base our segment in loads of different things. It could be where people live, so it could be all of the people living in Manchester, for example, or it could be behavior as well. So it could be all of the people who live in Manchester, but haven't opened an email from us for the past 10 days, or clicked a specific link in one of our emails in the past, I don't know, 2 weeks. So we can get very specific in the people we target if we wanted to. In this case, really nice and easy, just the people who came to our event. Then the next thing that we need is a marketing email tile, because that's where we want to be sending, that's where the magic will happen. I think we had a question in the chat earlier, how do we distribute it to a group of people? This is how we distribute it to a group of people. We define the people first, and then the next thing we do is we send that email to them. And the one thing I wanted to show you, so I'm going to flick through to my not live, to my draft customer journey. I can see a question in the chat. I'm just going to finish my thought here, and then I'll have a look. So yeah, we have a draft customer journey, because that's where I can show you this. That's the important bit here. So in the toolbox, we can see all of the different things, or all of the different building blocks, touch points with the customer we can drag and drop onto our customer journey out of the box. We can add our own custom tiles as well, if that's what we want to do. But the important one in terms of Forms Pro and the integration we're talking about today is this Forms Pro tile here. One tiny point and lessons learned, because I used it in the wrong way the first time I started using it. So I just want to make sure that you don't make the same mistake. The way to use it is not to drag and drop. So again, you drag and drop your tiles. It's not to drop it on your customer journey itself, the right way to use it is drop it on top of your email tile. So because that essentially is the way we have designed our email, all this is saying is we're sending an email, and as part of that email, we have our Forms Pro survey. And again, you can pick what survey you want to use, and in the lookup field here, and you see all of your surveys that you created in your Forms Pro portal. And now let's have a look at the question that we got. So what do you call this? What is called pipes? No, it's not pipes, it's tiles, sorry. It's probably my accent. Sorry, yeah, they're tiles. Each box is a separate tile. Is that what you were asking, Bernard, or did I misunderstand your question?
No, I was just trying to find out what you do to like send out group emails. What and is that when you create pipes? Or I don't know about.
So all you do is to send it. You need to have a customer journey, because
Okay.
that's where the magic will happen. Customer journey is where, and probably it will make more sense here. So I have a customer journey. That whole thing is a customer journey.
Yeah.
And this tile here, the marketing email box, is where the magic happens, because as you can see, so this is the people who have gone through my campaign or my journey. So 4 people were part of my segment, and then 4 people went through that marketing email. So that means 4 people were sent that email.
Okay.
Does that answer the question? Is that what you wanted to know?
Yes, thank you.
Cool. Yeah, so this is where the magic happens. This tile is the one that sent that email to Chuck.
Oh.
And there are so many things I can tell you about an email, because there's so many cool things we can do around dynamic content and what we show, how we personalize the email, but that's not the point of today. Because it doesn't make a difference to the way the integration with Forms Pro works. But if you're interested, keep an eye, have a read through the documentation. There's some cool things you can do around the way you design your emails. But in terms of the integration, what we have is, and I'll go back to my live one. Yeah, customer journey, we have our segment with the group of people, we have our marketing email tile, where, as we said, the magic happens. So all of our party people were sent the survey here. And then what we can do in terms of customer journeys is we can have a trigger. So what we'll do here is we want to see, or we want to check how many people actually opened the email we sent them. And as you can see, 4 people came to that tile, but then only 1 of them came on this branch or on this path. So as you can see, this is the happy path. So this is the people who satisfied the condition of email opened. And this is the negative branch or the negative path, which is the people who didn't open our email. And that's one of the cool things you can do with marketing. You can really personalize the way you address people depending on how they interact with your system. In that specific example I have given you here, just for exposure, if they haven't opened our email, you can define a time frame on the tile here. So we can say if they haven't opened our email in, let's say, 5 days or 3 days, then send them on that negative path and just resend the email again to give them another chance. If, however, if they have opened our email, it means they'll come on this path, on this branch. And then what we can do, and here you can get as creative as you want. There's so many different ways you could design your journey. But here, what I wanted to show you is how you can also have Forms Pro triggers. So what we have said here is if they have submitted the form, so if they have given us feedback, and if they have answered a specific thing to a specific question, only then count them as happy customers. So here I have said only send them on this branch or on this path if they said they would recommend this to a customer. So if you remember that question with the smiley faces that I told you I was really excited about, they are going to be counted as happy customers only if they answered that specific question with a positive answer. So if they have, an example think of what we could do is we can send them another thank you email, or if we use different solutions, there are different solutions we could install to use cool things like text message or Viber. We could send them a message to say thank you so much for being a loyal customer. There you go. That's your voucher, or that's your ticket for another event or invitation or whatever it might be. If they're not a happy customer, then we probably want to do something different. So what we could do, for example, is we could also schedule an activity or schedule a task or a phone call from within that journey. And what that would do is it will create your follow-up task, and it will give you the opportunity to fix that relationship with that specific customer. And I do expect questions here because we absolutely flew through that customer journey. So Bruna is saying, could you show how we trigger using a specific question on the survey? Yep. So to do that, we need to go on my draft one, because as we said, we can't change our live one. So all you need to do first is you need to drag and drop a trigger, and you probably know how to do that. So all you need is to get that trigger and drag and drop it onto this. So this gives you a tile that looks like this. And then if you go to properties, that's where we say how long we want to give them. I can add a new rule. And here, as you can see, it's giving you all of the different building blocks that you were sent as part of that campaign. So this is my email and this is my survey. You need to pick your survey because that's your source. And then you can have all of those different actions you can check on: survey opened, survey submitted, or specific question answered. If you say specific question answered, then you have a list with all of your questions, and you can say what you want the answer to be to send them on the happy path, and everything else will send them on the negative path. Is that what you wanted to know, Bruna? Cool, perfect, good. Yeah. Good, cool. So if we don't have any more questions, there are a few more things I want to show you before I run out of time. So now, in terms of where we have got to with our demo, we created our survey in the Forms Pro portal. We enabled the integration within our marketing app. We created a marketing email in which we linked our survey to that email. We created a customer journey, and we sent that email as part of that campaign or customer journey, and we got some results. Once the results start coming in, you can see them in your Forms Pro portal in a nice visual way. So if, for example, I click on here, I can see how all of my surveys are personalized as well, but they're also non-anonymous because they're linked to a specific customer. So Chuck, for example, is the one that I was saying we are going to look closely in the demo, and he was one of the people that were part of the segment, and he responded. If I wanted to, I can dig even deeper, so I can see his responses. I can export them if that's what I wanted to do. So that's all there in your Forms Pro portal. But not only. So another cool thing that happened as part of the integration is, so this is my Chuck contact record in my Dynamics Marketing app. And what we have here is, you're probably familiar with the timeline and the concept of the timeline. And all of those things, all of those kind customer voice survey invite and response got added to my timeline because we sent the survey and because he responded. So we didn't have to do anything for all of those to start to appear there. Okay, and I just want to show you how those look like. So as you can see, the invite has all of the information that you would expect to have as part of it. It's got your survey, it's got a link, it's got your link to the customer, and it's got your link to the survey as well. And I wanted to show you how a response looks like as well, because there is one cool thing that I really like about it. This is how a response looks like. The fact that you can see it against the timeline for a customer is pretty cool, because it means it's already in the database, in the DataFlex Pro, in the what we used to call the common data service. So it means that having it in there, you can use it for whatever further automation you might want. But it also has this thing here that customers usually love. It gives you a visual representation of your survey and how Chuck has responded. So as we can see, it gives us the pictures for the questions as well, and it gives us a visual way to see his answers. So we have some questions. So Mark is asking, where does the survey answer data live? Is it all stored in CDS DataFlex, and it is DataFlex Pro? Yes, it is. Yeah, it's all stored in DataFlex Pro, which means if you wanted to use it as part of if you wanted to use Power Automate to pick it up, you can use you can use one of the triggers you can use is a record is created in that CDS, and you can trigger it based on that record type. Jason is saying data should like in DataFlex Pro. I think that probably live. So yeah, data should live in DataFlex Pro, correct? As previously used to live in CDS. Yes. And the very last thing I wanted to show you, that's more for awareness. It's not that tied to that specific example, but another thing that happened as part of the integration between Marketing and Forms Pro is that we got those criteria that we could use as part of a segment. So I told you earlier how we can build a segment is a group of people that satisfy certain criteria. Here, in my case, if I'm launching a new cocktail next month, let's say, I can target the people who said their favorite cocktail was that specific one, and only send whatever communication I have around my new product only to them, because they might be the most interested one. So what I can do is I can create, for example, a segment that looks up at that specific survey. And again, we can pick only the people who said a specific thing or answered in a specific way to a question that we are interested in. Okay, so in terms of this, I think that was all I was going to show you in the system. I have 2 more housekeeping slides to show you, but do we have any more questions or anything else that you guys want to see in the system? We have one, so we're saying, which tool do you recommend to migrate the surveys from dev to production environment, for example? So you don't even need to have a tool. It does it for you. All you need to, so if, for example, now I wanted to copy my survey to a different content, I can go to the Forms Pro portal, click copy, and it's asking, where do you want to copy this survey to? So I can click copy to an environment. So I don't have a production proper environment set up here, but all of your environments would show up in the list, and you can just use the out-of-the-box Forms Pro functionality to copy your surveys. So, okay, I don't see any more questions. The last 2 things I was going to show you, just as awareness, not much to say here, but I wanted to show you the few key dates that we are excited about and are coming up. Microsoft releases functionality twice a year. So in the beginning of this month, we got the release plans for the next one. On the 3rd of August, just after my holiday, we get early access availability available to the new features. Quite a few cool things coming in. My most favorite one is to do with the enhanced functionality around the social. And again, not much time to go through the details, but at the moment you can post from Dynamics Marketing to Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. What you will be able to do after that release wave comes in, you will be able to see how your posts have been performing from within the marketing app. And we get general availability for that functionalities after October the 1st. A few blogs, I was saying that if you want to know how to set things up, I have written a few things, so you can have a look there as well. And I think this is all I was going to show you today. So if you don't guys have any questions, I think I will overrun by 4 minutes, but hopefully that is okay. Deborah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you.